We crossed the pedestrian area of the Silver Lake sand dunes. We paddled to a spot that was just a dot on a map, and we got to dive a shallow water shipwreck. And that's everything that we did today was a first for me.
And we went down with a shipwreck that was unlike any other that we've ever been to.
Now that we've set it up, let's jump all the way back to the beginning of how this came to be. We were at the Maritime Museum in Ludington, and at one of their displays, they were talking about shipwrecks in the local area. And the one, am I going left? Left. And the one that caught my eye was the Novadoc. I've heard about it, but I didn't know where it was exactly. So it said in that video there that it is for beginners. And I was like, well, that's perfect for beginner scuba divers. And then I did a little bit of research, and it said that it was paddle sports accessible, and it could be dove with just a snorkel and mask and fin. I still didn't know how or what I was supposed to do to get there. I just knew I had the coordinates. There was a dot in the water.
Right.
So that was the beginning of the plan. You and I talked about it, and we said, okay, paddleboards, we're gonna hike them across the, I think it's 1.2 miles is where we ended up going.
Okay.
Across all of the Silver Lake sand dunes pedestrian area, which every single step of that is totally unique.
For the weather, I mean, I knew doing this, we'd want it like almost no wind.
Yeah.
Because even like a little ripple starts to make it harder to see. When I saw what today was looking like a while back, I was like, all right, if the forecast stays like this, like it's going to be as flat as it can be. And it was calmer than I thought it would even be. I mean, it was flat calm. So that makes a huge difference when doing what we did today, because it made it more enjoyable getting there, and it made it easier.
What did we do right with our gear today, and what did we do wrong with our gear?
Right with our gear was the new battery-powered inflator for the paddleboards.
Yeah.
I mean, game changer. So that was what we did right. What we did wrong was we did bring 2 manual pumps, because we thought we were like, let's bring 1 manual just in case we need it. And but we accidentally brought 2. But for gear, I would say I was pretty good overall. I had my little when we were walking out, my little towel that you can get wet that feels good when you're hiking in warm weather. I left that in the car. But besides that, I was pretty happy with what I had.
We knew that our gear was going to be a heavy hike out there.
Yeah.
But somebody that was wearing a sun shirt, wearing a full brimmed hat, and wanted to go and have a beach day and use the pedestrian area to get out there, that hike would be 95% enjoyable, and then just a little bit of effort, but a rewarded effort.
Oh yeah, if you're gonna go out there and spend then a few hours hanging out and stuff, like you just pack your regular beach setup and throw it in like some sort of backpack or whatever you want, and get out there, you're in a good spot to have a beach day.
There would be another way to have the exact same paddleboarding experience, and that would be is if you had a capable ORV and wanted to ride out on the dunes, bring your inflatables in your car or in your truck. Being able to park your vehicle right at the rope, which is 100 feet from Lake Michigan, and you're gonna go enjoy the beach day on the sand, is very cool. We were told that Novadoc is underneath the water right there. I couldn't have promised that we were going to find it.
Yeah.
I just figured that it was going to be correct.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
It took us, once we got to the area we thought we were going to be at, we saw the dark under the water, and we found it. What's that feeling like when you first find a shallow water shipwreck?
It's like, oh, there's a shipwreck underneath of me and I'm standing, and I always feel comfortable standing, but I always get just a little bit, I can feel the waves or the ripples of the water a little more when I'm standing on a paddleboard over top of a shipwreck, especially one this big and with this much structure to it.
Michigan does a really great job of keeping our lighthouses interactive and something that is, hey, would you like to actually see and experience our maritime history? We have that same thing going on with underwater preserve, like marked on, like with coordinates, you know where they're going to be. The depth is the depth they say they're going to, so I know I'm capable of diving underneath of it. It doesn't matter that I know it's supposed to be there. When I see it for the first time, I go, oh, there it is. Because you know that at one point in history, there was something that happened that caused this ship to sink. And it's like there's like a feeling around it, like an aura that happens around it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just me freaking myself out or if the history is alive when you're sitting there.
Right. And I think when there's stories around them too, with like seeing that one at the Maritime Museum and it having a decent amount of information about it versus like sometimes it's like still cool to see, but it might be like it was a wooden schooner that was sunk on purpose to like be part of like a dock system or something. It's still like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But this one was like it had all the pieces of what I know it was a long time ago now, but I mean, what you'd say is more modern type of ship that was at the bottom of the lake here.
The hull, the front keel as it cuts underneath the water, and seeing it compared to every single modern tugboat, every single steamship, every single front line of a freighter that you see on the Great Lakes existed in this boat and was still intact.
Right. Whether it was from underwater or above when you're just looking down on it, standing on a paddleboard, you could see it all, like see all of the structure and everything, which it just made it different.
As soon as I go under the water and I can see the shipwreck, all of the like, ooh, goes away, and I cannot get enough of it. I've actually trained a little bit in making sure that I have a long enough breath hold that I can go and do repeat dives and actually dive down, feel comfortable going 12, 15 feet underwater and feeling comfortable being down there. In some of the things that I saw while I was down there was, number one, a lot of fish.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how many fish.
Very, very rarely do we get to be around so many fish in the Great Lakes. And there was a lot down there, including one of the drum or sheephead, whatever, like they call them a couple of things.
Yeah.
That was down there. That one was cool to see. The holes where maybe the chains would come down for the anchoring system.
Yeah.
Those were cool to see because the lip of the deck was up just enough that you could see down through those holes. And it was the ship itself, as you were exploring it, had a lot of three-dimensionality to it, which is something that we do not get to experience often.
Right. Yeah, you see sometimes when someone like is scuba diving in 200 feet and they find, or they're like showing something at the bottom. This is the most like that in the depth of water that we've been to.
Yeah, that is a large ship to have in only 12 to 15 feet of water sitting 200 or 300 yards off.
Do you remember how big it was, like from when we were at the museum? 253 feet. Woo. Oh, that's crazy. There's like an actual picture of what it looked like. Built in 1928, lost in a storm November 11th, 1940. So it was only 12 years old. It was bound from Chicago for Port Alfred, Quebec.
That's a long haul.
That is very long. Okay, attempted to get like closer to shore, but waves washing over the deck and they're barely able to make out Little Sauble Point Lighthouse.
Okay, well, that actually leads us perfectly in to the rest of the day. I deflated the boards, walked back, and got in the van and drove to Little Sauble Lighthouse, but you chose to go the other route, which was you decided that you were going to paddle to Little Sauble Lighthouse.
When you just get past that area, you start to kind of turn a corner and then you can see the lighthouse.
Okay.
But it's still a ways. But I mean, obviously that's the point of the lighthouse. You're supposed to be able to see it from pretty far away.
Yeah.
And then once I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm on the home stretch here. So that lighthouse is celebrating its 150th anniversary this year.
That lighthouse is delightful in the way that it sits up against the dunes.
Yeah.
I love the way that it's very picturesque in the way that it sits.
Yeah.
But it also is one of those lighthouses where if you were a kid drawing lighthouses,
Yeah.
you've accidentally drawn the Little Savo Lighthouse 1,000 times.
Yeah. No, I agree. It definitely has that look. And I've talked a little bit about like history of this area, and at one point there was like a house down there too.
Okay.
At that one. Now it's just the tower.
I'm going to ask you the question, and you're going to say if you would recommend it or how you would do it.
Okay.
Would you recommend people hiking across the dunes to go and have a Lake Michigan beach day?
Oh, absolutely recommendation. Recommend that for sure.
Would you tell people to go and have a beach day and be around the Little Savo Point Lighthouse?
Yes. That feels pretty unique for a beach day to have a lighthouse just like in the background.
Whippy dip. What was your order, and would you recommend it?
Yeah, it was the best. It was my favorite flurry I've ever had. I don't like. There was so much stuff in it. It was something chocolate, double dune. The word dune and chocolate was in it. There were Oreos. I mean, it was so good. I'm gonna get that again. Like that's going to be a destination thing to go get another one of those.
Would you order more wings from the Chicken Shack, or is 12 the perfect amount?
I felt really good with how much I had. There's been times where I feel like I could eat more, but that was just the perfect amount today. And I love those wings.
I know that I'm not going to be able to recreate those wings at my own house, but I know that if I can get 1/10 of the way there with the flavor that they're able to produce, then I'm going to be happy with my own wings. And even 1/10 of the flavor of my own wings when I'm making them at home, with that, is going to upgrade the taste of my wings. I love those wings so much that I actually bought this.
Yeah.
And that should last me forever, but I probably won't last me as long as I think because of how much I like those wings.